who were slashed to death in a drug den, a leading suspect who was shot to death by the FBI, and in between that, the Boston Marathon bombings. None of those cases is new. The triple murder happened 2.5 years ago, but despite an undeniable connection in the person of this man, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, only the bombings have been solved. And the more we learn about the other cases, the more questions seem to really pop up about the bombings and whether we ever really needed to solve them at all, whether they would have even happened. Questions that range from very troubling to downright shocking. My guest has uncovered reams of new and surprising information in a piece that she reported for Boston Magazine. Susan Zalkind, I want to start with the first question, and that is this. This is an exhaustive piece that I have read by you. It's in this issue of the magazine. When you went through the triple murders that happened in 2011, the connection with Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the connection down to Todashev, the suspect in Florida, and his friends, girlfriend, the FBI, etc. Did you find out something that the rest of us hadn't pieced together, that perhaps the Boston bombings may never have occurred?
Well, you put together that this is really 3 stories all rolled up into one. We've got an unsolved triple murder, we've got a Boston Marathon bombing, and we've got a man shot to death in his own apartment in Florida. And the only official statement that we have from authorities right now comes out of court documents related to Johar Tsarnaev, which officially states the FBI's contention that Ibrahim Todashev implicated Tamerlan Tsarnaev in that gruesome triple murder in Waltham.
To remind our viewers, because there are so many details.
There's a lot of details.
We haven't even had a year since the bombings to put it all together. The death of Todashev in the apartment in Florida at the hands of the FBI.
Yes, and there were 2 Massachusetts state troopers
who were present as well. It was immediately after the potential signing of a confession to the Waltham triple murders. Is this what this was about?
Well, those are the leaked reports, and we haven't had any official accounts by this. I actually just got a press release just this afternoon saying that the Florida state prosecutor, who's conducting an independent investigation into this FBI shooting, he will have his own independent report out by the end of March. And that's the first official date that we've had that there'll be any official report as to what happened in that room.
In that apartment.
In that apartment.
And you're saying this is the Florida investigation.
This is the Florida. This is not the FBI. This is not the FBI.
They said that they would investigate, because there's all sorts of there's all these different versions of what happened at Todashev. He's sitting at a table. They say he rushed the officers with either a knife, and then in another account it's a pipe. He has a shotgun, or rather a gunshot to the head, to the top of the head.
Yeah, and I've actually been in this room. I've been in this room into this. It's a small condo with Ibrahim Todashev's girlfriend before she was deported, by all accounts, for speaking to me.
So, first of all, it's interesting that you break this news right now that the authorities in Florida are going to release the information that perhaps the FBI has not had the control over them, if there is such a thing, to stop them from doing so as they continue the investigation into who may have played a wider role in the bombing. Do they perhaps then not see that there's a wider role, that Todashev and others may not have had anything to do with the bombings at the marathon?
Like I told you before, all we have is this one official statement. It's the FBI's contention that Ibrahim Todashev implicated Tamerlan Tsarnaev in that grisly triple murder in Waltham. And so you have to say, there's a lot of questions here. I mean, my investigation starts with Waltham, and there are a lot of leads that local officials didn't go through there. And then it ends in actually late fall, where I find the FBI still reaching out to Ibrahim Todashev's friends, asking him very, very basic questions about the Boston.
Well, while that may have been, at least some respite for these victims' families in Waltham who have been waiting and waiting for some sort of solution.
I don't think that was I think that's where you're wrong.
Right.
It's not at all. I mean, the victims' families are really, really hurting here.
Devastated.
I mean, we had a...
Let me just ask you one question. There was one spot where I just stopped and my mouth dropped open, and that was this. The girlfriend of Todashev is perhaps the only person who can give us any insight what his reaction was when he heard about the bombings, i.e., did she suspect he may have known something about it when he heard about the bombings and the death of Tamerlan, that maybe something was afoot?
All she says she told me is she was in the condo with him and he heard about the Boston Marathon bombings, assumably after Tamerlan Tsarnaev died, and he was very, very sad.
Maybe just sad for the death of a friend, or sad for the reality of it all?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say. We just know that they were good friends, and there's a lot of questions here.
Shockingly, as good friends, it's amazing he wasn't investigated back in 2011. It's a great piece. You've done a lot of work. I highly recommend people take a look. There is a lot that you have uncovered and you've written about it. Hopefully we'll get some answers. When was the date that the Florida investigators are going to release the report?
They said by the end of March 2014. This is the first time we've ever heard a solid month date of any sort of report coming out of these.
You'll have to come back and tell us if it sheds any more light on anything else. These questions that you found, it's just remarkable. Just remarkable. Thank you, Susan. Good to meet you.
So good to be here.
Appreciate it.